Good afternoon and welcome to this emergency episode of the Mary Trump Show with the Nerd Avengers. There is so much to cover, but I want to start with this reminder because when this popped into my head, it kind of blew me away. The documents that are referenced in the redacted affidavit that was released today refer to the contents of the 15 boxes that were removed from Mar-a-Lago months ago. We still have absolutely no idea what is in the boxes that were removed 2 weeks ago. So there's that. There are lots of angles here. The fact that the stolen documents weren't secured, the fact that there were multiple informants, Donald's meltdown, the false claims coming from the right, the silence coming from a lot of people on the right, and the enormity of the crimes we seem to be grappling with. I know that these developments are bad for Donald, and that's good. And I hope something comes of it, and hopefully bad for his associates in the Republican Party. However, this is a terrible day for this country. And for all Americans, it is a very, very dark day. So, Waj, this is all. I'm sorry, I'm going to go with Norm first because I know you don't have a lot of time, Norm. Uh, where do you want to start with this? Because it is kind of mind-boggling.
We could start in so many places, and it would take a lot of time to end.
Right.
I was struck by several things with the affidavit. One, a lot of it we'd sort of heard in different places before, but it's got a different power when it comes from an official document of this sort.
Yep.
One thing we did not know is that they had lied in saying that there was a lock on the storage room door, and that the Justice Department wanted and the FBI wanted a stronger lock. There was no lock. We know that multiple people, probably none of whom had any security clearance, were going in and out of that room. Right. We learned that the way that all of these documents, including the 15 boxes that had been returned to the National Archives, were kept in incredibly sloppy condition. Top secret information, probably including sources and methods, mixed in with photos and who knows what else, personal things. We know that Trump made notations in some of these documents, and I really want to see what's there. Is it an absolutely top secret document that has written on the side, I bet I can get $1 million for this one, or something of that sort? Or let's try and see whether we want to give this either to MBS or to Vlad or to my buddy Kim. We know that, in other words, there are a lot more shoes to drop. We know that this is absolutely devastating stuff and that there are multiple lies. And we know that the document also says that they were looking for obstruction, which means that they expected that there were things that were going to be hidden in places they weren't supposed to be, after being promised that they were only in one place, that there were maybe documents that were destroyed or disfigured. There's just so much here, and it implicates a lot more than Trump. And I'd mention one other thing that's a separate story, Mary, but I find, and it's not that this is any great revelation either, this con artist posing as a Rothschild, and a Rothschild, Russian-speaking, apparently Ukrainian origin, who basically ingratiated herself with Trump and all the people around her and had pretty much free reign around the place. So we know, first of all, that Russian spies, Chinese spies, right, Saudi Arabian spies, Korean spies, who knew that for them, the very cheap price of the initiation fee at Mar-a-Lago meant that they could be around and learn all kinds of stuff that otherwise they would either not have access to or be spending a lot more to get. And we know that there were a lot of other people roaming around. So we have no clue at this point who had access to these things, but we also know that the reason that these most secret documents are kept in secured facilities and are not allowed out is that they're giving information about who is working with the US in these other countries, putting them at risk. And I will say, one thing that just really outraged me was Mick Mulvaney, right, whose only distinction as a chief of staff is that he was better than Mark Meadows, did a tweet saying, well, now we've learned it's only documents, so this raid was outrageous. So, my response was, well, let's see, the Rosenbergs, those were documents.
Yeah.
Arthur James, Robert Hansen, those were documents. You know what happened with those documents? People were killed.
Right.
And it's just beyond comprehension that people would still stick with this guy. But of course, a whole lot of them will, except now with these revelations and knowing there are more shoes to drop, will we finally see some people, not because they are morally outraged, but because they're afraid of sticking to somebody who is going to be in big, big trouble, that it's bad for them? Will we see more of that happening? And if we're lucky, will we see an all-out civil war among Republicans, the pro-Trumpists who will stick with him to the very end, up against those who are trying to get some distance from him? And that would be a good thing that could emerge from this. And finally, let me just say, I think all of this that stains him. And now we see his responses on Truth Social, which are like a pig about to go to slaughter, knowing that this was very bad and squealing. But if I am Fannie Willis, if I am Letitia James, I'm going to say, I go forward now and I've got more traction, because it is ever more clear that this guy is not just a grifter, he's a traitor.
Norm, all of that is right on target, and it also is a perfect example of how complicated this is.
Yeah.
On the one hand, and how simple it is on the other. We just need this to end. We've been dealing with this for so long, and Waj, I want to go to you because
I gotta go, Mary. I'm sorry.
Oh, Norm, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was so good to have you here, even if for 7 minutes.
Bye all.
Bye. Because one of the things we saw a couple of weeks ago was the Republican Party coming out in force, siding with Donald, saying, get rid of the Espionage Act, because the only way we can clear him is if we pretend there's no such thing as espionage. Thanks, Rand Paul. Why are you a senator? Or I should say, thanks, Kentucky. And things are a little different today. And, to Norm's point about what the rights are, I don't give a shit about what they think. I don't give a shit if it peels some of them away or not. They're in the minority. What it needs to do is shore us up. But, because the Biden administration does things above board, and because Merrick Garland doesn't act like he's Joe Biden's personal attorney, there's a split, right? There's a separation there, as there should be. And they're both constrained. Biden doesn't want to politicize this, and the DOJ has to protect its sources and its potential criminals, right? I feel like that's not as much of a concern as it was 2 weeks ago, that, the right is filling the void with this all lies and disinformation. And then we see the New York Times saying he needs to be prosecuted. Why they couldn't have called for his resignation 3-4 years ago is beyond my comprehension, but that's something. Do you think that either one of those things will matter, or do we just need to keep our heads down and wait for information to keep coming out?
How is this guy not in jail? I mean, this mother effer needs to be in jail, right? So for me, I did this tweet a couple hours ago. I know it would go viral. That was my question. Like, how is he not in jail? Because let me give you an example. Reality Winner would like to speak up and have some words about taking a secret document, right? She took one piece of a document, she leaked it, she went to jail for 4 years. This mother effer took a treasure trove from the White House, confidential information, and he was asked to return it, warned repeatedly. He still didn't return it, right? And now you have this situation, and I say this without any exaggeration, where Mar-a-Lago, his private resort, which is also a golf club, which, like you said, I hope turns into an orphanage for people who come from quote unquote shithole countries like my parents. So that would be like the most karmic, exquisite chef's kiss if that's what happens to Mar-a-Lago. But Mar-a-Lago, the former resident, the residence of the former president, is literally the Shangri-La of criminality. It is the Xanadu for incompetent criminals. It is the hub of an ongoing criminal enterprise where America and its secrets are for sale. And as Norm was saying, literally anybody, and I recommend everyone read this fantastic investigative report done by Pittsburgh, I think, Gazette, about inventing Anna, right? This woman, this Ukrainian American woman by the name of Ina Yashishin, who, and I use the word literally as is meant to be used, Mary, literally drove into Mar-a-Lago, posed as a Rothschild, ingratiated herself with all these individuals, and based on what we know from the affidavit, pretty much could have just walked in and got access to these highly classified documents, right? So anybody could come into Mar-a-Lago, get access to these secrets, purchase these secrets, access classified information, and gain access to power if all they did was kiss up to Trump and pay him a brass penny, right? And that shows you that this man is a traitor. He committed treason. I want to know the depths of the relationship between him, Jared, and MBS of Saudi Arabia. I want to remind everyone that Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, bragged when Trump was in office that I have Kushner in my back pocket.
That's right.
Kushner got $2 billion for his latest venture from Saudi Arabia. The first trip that Donald Trump made as a president, the first foreign visit, was to Saudi Arabia. And we know that secrets were for sale, nuclear secrets. So if I'm Donald Trump, I am in a world of trouble right now. But the question that I have,
well, if you were Donald Trump, you would be.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it.
I mean, fortunately, you're not him, but you know.
But no, that's exactly what I'm saying. And I'll end on this with this need for accountability and why I agree with you that enough is enough. And I wrote this article yesterday about Dark Brandon rising, right? How Joe Biden finally is getting there. He said semi-fascist. I give him props for that. I would say fascist.
He's half right.
He threw down the gauntlet, and he was really fire in his speech in Maryland. You need to go all out. It doesn't matter about MAGA. Who cares if they get angry? Who cares about their temper tantrum? Because let me tell you, Black people, poor white people, Latinos, Muslims, they're looking at this right now and they're like, yo, if it was one of us, we'd be killed. Black people are in jail for 3 strikes, you're out for stealing a Blockbuster VHS, old school reference, right? You had a Black woman who accidentally voted and they said she committed fraud and she's about to go to jail. And then you have Lindsey Graham and all these Republicans literally engaging in voter fraud in Georgia. You got people who engage in the most minor criminal actions. They go to jail. And you got Alan Weiselberg literally admitting to committing criminal acts. And he's going to go to Club Fed. So with all of this happening in New York, in Georgia, the coup, let's not forget about the coup, ladies and gentlemen, and him stealing confidential information and possibly selling this information that betrays our national security. You have a traitor profiting in Mar-a-Lago from American secrets. Why is this mother effer not in jail? And I believe if it's Joe Biden and Democrats, you need to take off the gloves, put on the brass knuckles, and punch this mother effer in the face right now. Flex. I got to take my kids to MMA.
Well, thank you so much. Speaking of punching,
it's all the punching.
Awesome. I have 3 minutes. I'm going to stick around for the next person.
Okay. Yes. And I will say, I will not constrain myself. This motherfucker needs to be taken out, metaphorically speaking, guys. Because Cliff, I'm convinced, I have no evidence of this. I'm convinced that January 6th and what's happening now are absolutely connected.
Yep.
I don't know if this happened because he didn't get his way after January 6th, or if this was part of it initially. I have no idea, but there's no doubt in my mind that we are going to find out that all of these things have been connected for a very long time. And hopefully that will implicate more and more people, because again, we've got assholes like Mark Meadows hired by CBS. CNN is deciding that it wants to be Fox Light, and Waj is right. We can't do anything about it. We need to stay in our lane, which is defending American democracy, no matter what, no matter how anybody reacts. And I will say, I've totally forgot about this. Joe Biden, I've been upset about how he's trying to be nice and everything. That's changing. But remember, he took away Donald's security clearance a long time ago. That tells me something, Cliff.
Tells you a lot. And I'd like to thank everybody here for allowing me to say motherfucker, because I've held back a lot, and now I feel a certain freedom.
There's no holding back,
Is a
especially
motherfucker.
on a
Cliff
day
and
like
Mary,
tonight.
can I just say my 3 kids are outside, which is why I said mother effer.
Okay, yeah, I'm at my office right now. I can motherfucker away all I like. No, I mean, no, it's unbelievable that you brought up the reasons why he would have these. I can only think of 3, right? One of them is to protect himself, so he's got stuff to blackmail people and threaten our national security by handing certain documents over. A second is he's got them to blackmail his way back into power and threaten certain people to get them to support him. And the third is, as Waj said, is, again, that KBS relationship with Kushner. I mean, I'm sorry, everything from Khashoggi to how our foreign policy changed. I mean, you may remember there was an article in 2019 where Trump had come out at the time, and so had Jared Kushner, and they said, we think we should loosen, the vice we now have on nuclear sort of technology and start sharing it with, guess who was the country they named? Saudi Arabia. I mean, I'm sorry, there's too much shit here. You don't have that much going on with one country and with one relationship. I mean, who warned MBS about all the other, all of the rivals of his over there? So that he took them all out in time before, and he had them either all locked up or tortured. I have a feeling Kushner was WhatsApping him about it. And so, I mean, quite clearly that's an issue. But then let's go also, there was so much here. I apologize. I'll just try to be quick about it. But there's so much with Mar-a-Lago. We've arrested a Chinese spy there in the past. Maria Butina has been arrested in the past. I mean, I'm just going to do it. How many fucking spies do we have wandering around, MAGA universe? Maria Butina was the top of the Republican consulting pyramid with the dude in Florida. She was in Florida. I'm sure she went by Mar-a-Lago. She was at the top of the NRA. She was showing up to these prayer breakfasts. I mean, these guys have infiltrated the top levels, and that's because these guys share secrets, and Donald Trump stores stuff like I store books in my basement. I mean, that's what we've got, like national security secrets down there, and people could have died. Some people may have forgotten he was joking around with Lavrov in the Oval Office, and he gave away an Israeli, spy who was in ISIS, who, for all we know, was either had to be pulled out or was killed. So, I mean, how he's not in jail, I just don't. I mean, it's so utterly how anybody in this country right now, as Waj was saying, regular people can walk around and believe in the rule of law when they see this shit. It's incredible. The last thing I'll say is Dark Brandon, huge credit. You guys brought up obviously what he said, semi-fascist, and the media started crying about it. But I'm proud of them too, because they started firing back on Twitter to all these hypocrites who were like, oh, well, student loans, I mean, how it's going to cause inflation and it's terrible. What kind of accountability is there? And then every single one of these assholes took a $10,000 or a $50,000 or a $500,000 or a $5 million loan that was forgivable, and it's completely okay for them. Which I think, again, others who know about authoritarianism can talk about it. I think that's the point. It's not that they're hypocrites. It's that they see that we are below them. The rules don't exist to them. The rules exist for the little people like us. That's what I got.
Yeah, they do indeed. And I'm glad you brought up, excuse me, Dark Brandon. And by the way, the only reason that the media should have gotten upset that he said semi-fascist is because he should have said fascist. But, we can't expect too much. Baby steps, American media, baby steps. But we can't spend any time on this at all, other than to say it's been another amazing week for the Biden administration. And maybe Donald is just doing this to make sure the spotlight stays focused on him. I don't know. But Jen, you had something you wanted to say about why you think Donald might have been planning to sell some of these documents. I'm very interested to hear what you have to say about that, because I think I can't imagine any other reason that he would have them.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot for someone to change a lifelong pattern of behavior. And in his case, and it's very difficult to get out of an addiction. And he's absolutely addicted to making money off of anything. I don't need to tell you this, Mary. And the story that comes to mind, you might remember, is Spy magazine. Remember the story where, like, as a joke, they sent like 13-cent checks to the wealthiest people in America, and like Donald was the only one to cash it or something. One of the two. I mean,
I think it was a Boy Scouts or something, and it was like 37 cents.
Okay, but and there was recently something where he was, when he was throwing hats out to people that he signed, oh, you're going to make a lot of money off of this on eBay. It's just how he is wired. And, why would he not want to monetize this? I mean, everyone made fun of all of us for saying emoluments, but, this is emoluments too, also.
Yeah.
I mean, from the very beginning, he was going to engage in self-dealing, and that's what he did. And it's just, everything is transactional. I mean, this is maybe not that insightful, but it's amazing to me how the press is sort of afraid to say the most likely reason is that he would be selling these or trading them, as we heard Waj say, for some benefit or some protection. Why are they afraid to say that? And one other thing, I don't usually get upset about Maggie Haberman because everyone does that, and there's a lot of sexism involved in that. But today I'm going to make my exception to that, because she tweeted something out saying some of the boxes, had things like golf balls mixed in with like intelligence secrets, and as if trying to imply that therefore it meant it was sort of haphazardly thrown together. Well, of course she's getting that. First of all, that's sort of,
who cares?
Who cares? I mean,
exactly.
Let me just tell you something. I packed up some stuff. I was visiting my parents in Michigan, some more China cups that were in my family, and I wrapped them really carefully in bubble wrap, but there was some extra space, and I put my pajamas in it. That doesn't mean that they're not important to me. It was just some cushioning. It's not really relevant that happened. The other thing I want to say that's really important for us to remember about all of this is the affidavit was based on, hey, Brian, talking about stuff that he had held on to for a year, that by May they found out what was in it. Nothing in that affidavit talks about, even worse, the things he held on to. What it does, though, it says, we think, because remember, so he held on to for 1 year things like sources and methods, classified information that was marked so it should not go to foreign nationals. They found that there. And on top of that, they had probable cause to believe that kind of stuff was still there. There's no way this guy gets out of this. He has to be indicted. If he's not indicted, we absolutely don't have the rule of law. That's how I read this affidavit. And one last thing, I'm sorry, I'm just ranting.
No. Rant. How can we not rant?
We're all doing it today. It's all
the
good.
memo, the motherfucking memo, since we're doing
Yes.
this. The memo, that didn't really work that way, but the memo said that there were many witnesses. Dude's going down, period. The only question is, how is his escape route? Does he have a tunnel to Moscow? I don't know. Anyway, that's what I have to say.
It is extremely dangerous territory in so many ways. But Dahlia, you had, and this is one of the dangerous things. You wanted to say something about the Imperial presidency and whether or not that exists, or it has, but whether or not that is going to become the norm here in America, the potentially soon to be former democracy.
I'm so struck, Mary, by the extent to which the more he's cornered, the more his answer is some version of the Nixonian, when the president does it, it isn't illegal. And it's even more fatuous than that, because quite literally, the defenses he is now offering, to the extent that there are any coherent defenses being advanced, are the crazy, like, toddler versions of like object permanence, right? Like when a toddler is like, you can't see me. And it's quite literally like what you learned in Psych 101 about how babies look at the world, where he is looking around and literally his legal defenses are: one, I declassify things with my laser eyes. Like, I don't have to go through any procedures or protocols. My mere thought that something is declassified makes it declassified. That's like Piaget, right? That's like object permanence obstruction right there. And then this other, even more insane, like toddler-like argument that executive privilege just runs with me wherever I go. And even when the Biden administration says, no, it's our executive privilege, you don't have it anymore, his answer is like, no, but I want it. And he's like rolling around saying, I want executive privilege, so it's mine. And I guess I just am so struck, that it's mine, which is what the Guardian reported, that he literally said, like, I don't understand why they want all this sources and methods and like the names of people whose lives are imperiled. It's mine. And I think this is a really good moment for people who want to peel away from the cult of Trump to ask themselves whether that kind of imperial definition of the presidency, that whatever happens in your brain is the law. And if you decide that you have executive privilege until the day you die, you get it. And that we all just sort of live in thrall to lifetime presidents who have unlimited brain power to do what they want. I think this stuff is chilling. And the idea that I get to keep things that endanger people who are out there on the front lines trying to protect the country, and you get to keep it because, quote, it's mine, like the golf balls are mine. I think this is a very, very good moment for people who want an off-ramp to ask themselves if they want Joe Biden to have that kind of power. And that if going forward, every president is the imperial president with mind powers to do what they want. Because this is the most chilling part of this, is that's the entirety, as I understand it, of the defenses he's now offering.
It is. And Dahlia, first of all, thank you for making me laugh. It's been a while. And I always look at Donald's psychology through the lens of object relations, which is much more terrifying, but it is kind of fun to see him not understand that when objects go out of your sight, they don't actually disappear. But it's worse than they're mine. I have them. He's clearly using them for something. I know you know that, but just to spell it out. And Danielle, a couple of things, and you can take this. You can say what you were going to say, or go off on either of these. About 30% of people anywhere have what we call authoritarian personalities, and that means they're followers, right? And they like homogeneity, they don't like change, and that's why he appeals to so many people, because he pretends to be a tough guy, and they identify with clearly they identify with the fact that he's a total fucking loser who's been able to fail up his whole life. So I don't know. The Republican Party has had, at least at last count, 1,017,000,000,000 off ramps, and they've taken none of them. Yes, this is the most serious one, but it's been incremental. I don't think they're going to give a shit. They're just going to come up with excuses about why this is okay, as Rand Paul did last week, or they'll just ignore it and leave it to Fox News to, I can't believe I just said that. I have to do penance. Fox is just going to figure out how they want to frame it or ignore it. And the other thing, Danielle, that makes all of this worse is that everybody here today, including Norm and Waj and all the other nerds, we knew who he was. We could have seen this coming billion light years. We did see this coming a billion light years away. He was never fit. This was always going to be how things ended. And yet, as somebody pointed out on Twitter, he appointed 3 Supreme Court justices. And even if the Democrats hold, which is looking more and more likely, millions of women are now second-class citizens and have no access to reproductive justice. So that's just another reason our heads are going to explode. Plus, of course, how many more Americans does he get to kill with impunity?
It's so fascinating, because I think that, first, to Dahlia's point, is that none of these people want an off-ramp. Right? Like, they don't want an off-ramp. Every single opportunity that they have to say, oh my God, I was duped, right? To say that I was led astray by this man who I thought had the best interests of the nation in their minds, they turn around and they double and they triple down, right? You had Mick Mulvaney just tweeted right before and said, it's just documents. Are you dumb? right? Because the CIA and the FBI and the DOJ and the Constitution is just a document, right? It's just a piece of paper, right? So it's like any opportunity that they have to be able to make excuses for this man, they do, because he allows them to be the best, worst versions of themselves. And I don't think that we all appreciate that for these people to take their hoods off, for them to stand outside and say, I don't give a damn about women. I hate Black people and other people of color. I believe that people should suffer in debt, right? And wallow in it, even though I'm given PPP loans of tens of thousands and millions of dollars in some cases. But you, poor child that wanted to seek higher education, you should struggle for the next 30, 40 years of your life. This is who these people are. So Donald Trump allows them, he gives them the permission to say and do what it is that they have to do without using the brain power of nuance, right? Because you still have Mitch McConnell, who tells us that basically the Republican people that are up for Senate are idiots, right? That they are not the best people. We don't have the best crop. They are dumb. Let's just call it what it is. You have Herschel Walker, who doesn't know what climate change is. You have JD Vance, who's pretending to be somebody that he isn't. You have Dr. Oz, the man who has hopped chia seeds for every fucking illness you possibly have.
And
right?
raspberry ketones.
And raspberry ketos for everything, right? Like, these are the people who are behind Trump because they're all frauds. And I think that to the point that the media doesn't want to say the truth is because they don't want to be sued, right? Like, they don't want to. What we all know to be true. The reason why Donald Trump didn't release his taxes, right? Because he's not as wealthy as he says that he is, and then it messes up his Ponzi scheme that he has going on to be able to get money from people. Also, why didn't he want people to know how much debt he's in? And Waj said this before he left: $2 billion MBS gave to Jared Kushner. $2 billion. MBS's own people said that Jared Kushner is not the type of person that MBS should be doing business with. And the man is a murderer, right? So it is amazing to me that we just can't, the media just refuses to connect these very obvious dots, that Donald Trump is the biggest national security threat this country has ever faced, both domestically with his white supremacist militia that he weaponizes whenever he wants, and then internationally, because he's selling these secrets, he's selling everything to the highest bidder. And there are people whose lives are going to be lost, even on top of the 400,000 that he murdered with COVID, when he knew it was as dangerous and as lethal as it was. He's not being charged with that as a crime either. So they don't indict Donald Trump. I'm telling you, everything that comes behind him is going to be worse than our worst nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely. Hang on, Brian. Because I just want to say a couple of things first about what Dahlia said and what Danielle said. First of all, getting back to the Imperial presidency, I think, Dahlia, part of it is that they never expected Donald to leave office, even if he did lose. And they will accept somebody like him who would stay there until he dies, and then Ivanka or Jared would inherit it, and they're totally cool with being subservient to those people because they hate the same people that they hate. So I think that's part of why the longer this goes on, the more they have to dig in, because one, human beings hate being wrong. They'll do anything to avoid that. But two, because that's their center of power. You know, it's like literally all of these fucking people have left is their whiteness. And Danielle, I mean, you're much more generous than I am. I blame Donald for every single COVID death except maybe the first 50,000. Fucking mass murderer. And to see people like Jared Kushner, who is a fucking international criminal, these people should be in The Hague. If only we were members of the ICC. You know, they can go on any program with impunity and lie to the American people when they should be in leg irons in a prison. And you're right. This will end so badly if we don't get all of them, and I mean all of them. Hawley, Cruz, all of the Congress, every last one of them. Brian.
Well, let's see. Where do I start? First of all, Mary,
Exactly. Where?
Mary, I'm going to say something. I'm finally more pessimistic than you in something when it comes to Donald Trump. I think he's responsible for every damn death except for the first 2 weeks where there were people on that boat and the initial dozen that were first diagnosed. I was on the South Lawn. I asked him the question, and he said, "Look, it's all going to be gone in a few days. We're handling it fine. No one else will get infected. We don't have to do anything." That's what he said to a question. So
Yeah,
for him, and fuck Donald Trump. He's gonna get indicted. And
Brian, I'm sorry. I just want to add one thing. It's about COVID, so it's not really related, but it's important. Do you know how many people worldwide died because
of
this
Donald
country failed?
Yeah.
So, it's exponential. Anyway, so know stuff from the DOJ, which is more to the point.
Well, and then I'll say that as far as the biggest problem that we have, the reason why the press doesn't acknowledge what goes on is because it's money. You have very rich board of directors in this country that own there's 6 companies with maybe a grand total of less than 100 white people, most of them white, who own and operate the board of directors of these things, and they want money. Donald Trump is money. So they will allow Donald Trump and all the Trumpism to come on board because that brings advertisers, viewers, and money. And this is because way back when, starting with, and I always preach it, Ronald Reagan took the rails off of journalism and allowed the cross ownership that you have one company owning 400 or 500 newspapers today. And if you look, most of these people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, all these people that are coming out of the woodwork now, look and see how well they're represented by the media in their communities. You will find huge media deserts where these people escape, the lunatics escape from the asylum because there's no eyes on them. And if we want to change that, we've got to invest in journalism. It's disgusting to me that we will sit here and talk about the problems of Marjorie Taylor Greene and never look at how she got in the first place. Where is the media? When I was, and the biggest example of that, Mary, is Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell would not be elected. At the time that he got elected in '84, it was the end of the run in my hometown of a family-owned newspaper. It was the Courier-Journal and Louisville Times, 10 top newspapers every year for 50 years. To get an endorsement, a lot of people didn't like them because they were progressive. They believed in more than just white people. They had the first black female managing editor in a major newspaper in the United States, very progressive. When they sold to Gannett, the idea to get an endorsement by the Courier, even if you didn't like them, was that it vetted you as a candidate and made you legitimate. And you had to go through a process to get that endorsement, where you had reporters that would vet you and go through and do opposition research. You had to sit before a board of 6 editors who interviewed you, and then they would decide who they would endorse. What newspaper does that today? That's why you have Boebert. That's why you have the morons that you have. And finally, as far as Donald Trump, he's going down, and everyone with him will go down. At this point, it can't be any other way. You can see that Merrick Garland has, and even if you read the redacted portions of this affidavit, it points you in the direction where he's going with, regards to national defense secrets, in regards to other people being involved. We don't know how many Confederates. We don't want to let this out because it's an ongoing investigation. This is not going to end, I assure you, until every single one of them is held accountable. And that we can only guarantee that if you turn out in the 2022 midterm elections and make sure that the Senate and the House aren't taken over by the agents of Satan. or as some call it, the GOP. I have my own feeling about it. Agents of Satan, GOP, same thing.
Works for me. Yeah. Although, Cliff, one of the things that I'm worried about is that, it never does seem to be enough. We've got the Biden administration accomplishing all sorts of stuff. And again, look, is it enough? No. But it's compared to the nothing we would be getting if it were Republicans. It's a lot. And given how close everything is, they're accomplishing a lot. And I don't think there could be worse news for the Republican Party right now. But will it break through? Will it? We're still in this position where the conventional wisdom is still we're going to lose the House. I'm so sick of this shit. I like how anybody can say that 6 months out, let alone 2 months, whatever, 74 days out, with all of this going on right now, when people are treating, other than Donald, they're treating Republicans like it's business as usual.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the whole reason why you get these guys even Cook, I think, changed and now said instead of 20 to 30, it's 10 to 20 House seats that Republicans will pick up. But of course, those guys are so small C conservative that they're wrong about everything because they're always so damn cautious. They've got darker sunglasses on than Brian puts on. They don't see the wave coming until it slaps them right in the damn face. Look, Biden should need to do nothing, just obviously to take over the House, Senate, and everything. And yet, what he's done is actually truly amazing. I mean, that's the thing here is that it's on par with FDR and with LBJ. The COVID relief, I can't even go into everything like the child tax credit and getting shots and arms and the infrastructure bill, getting gun legislation that sure wasn't nearly enough, but actually getting something done.
Right.
And now, obviously, with the Inflation Reduction Act, what it does for the climate and everything else, and some student loan relief. I mean, it's unbelievable, really. And I do think it's breaking through to a certain degree. I mean, his numbers have gone up. I've seen recently where he's even hit the mid 40s. That's ludicrous. He should be in the 70s. I get it. But the point is that the media, whether they're trying not to or whatever, has had to report some of this stuff because there's so much from the CHIPS Act and in providing jobs here to the burn pits, and McConnell wants to screw over veterans, and then we were able to do that, and the most Republicans voting against fucking birth control, for Christ's sake. I mean, all these things have have added up, and I think they've created a kind of momentum while all this negative stuff's been going on with Republicans. So, I mean, I absolutely, and then the last thing, obviously, and I'll say this too, Mitch McConnell, Senate candidates aren't as good as I'd like them to be. And they're not because you let a fucking crazy person pick them. And if you had honestly stood up when Obama came to you and stood there next to him and said the Russians are interfering in our election, then maybe that never happens. If during the first impeachment, when they went over Ukraine, that seems like kind of an important country for some reason. If he'd stood up then, he could have gotten Trump away. And yeah, there would have been short-term damage. But longer term, they would recover. And then, of course, the second one over the coup, where apparently he originally was going to vote to convict, but backed up every time they've empowered this asshole. And so he's kept the respect, and he's kept not respect, but he's kept power. And so, yeah, as Danielle's pointing out, I mean, like I've pointed out before, it's like flypaper for the most mentally unbalanced people among us. Are you a grifter? Are you a religious zealot? Are you one of the greediest motherfuckers alive? Are you stupid beyond fucking, anything we've ever seen? You have a home in the Republican Party. I mean, people that believe demons are transferred through sexually transmitted diseases and
the demons taking over your body, Cliff. Come join the GOP.
It's like the guy that beat the state house speaker in Arizona, Rusty Bowers, one of the ones that spoke up at the January 6th. The guy that Trump endorsed that beat him said the devil himself gave the election to Biden. I mean, what the fuck?
They're insane.
They're insane. But I think that, Cliff, that was literally a political ad. That to me is like the attack ad that should be running everywhere, right? Because this is who this party is. It is no more compassionate conservatives or people with actual degrees or brains. But it's all filled with literally clown car, Scooby-Doo, ridiculous fuckery.
No,
is
I
who
like
these is
Scooby
who
Doo.
these
Don't
is
you
who these
insult Scooby
people.
Doo,
I know.
Daniel.
Watch said it. He yelled at me earlier.
He's a
Not
good
to insult
stoner.
The level of
Scooby-Doo.
sophistication is
But
Scooby-Doo-ish.
it's amazing to me that you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene who believe that Jewish people in outer space control lasers. Like these are actual things that they
I
have
want to
said.
say, I gotta
I
say,
did control one laser, but I turned it off.
Tram
Just-
with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I have been in the Capitol on the same tram as Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's
sorry.
the sanest thing you will get out of Marjorie
Oh
Taylor
wait,
Greene.
there's a
Batshit nuts. She hid in the back corner of a tram and was afraid to talk to anyone because she thought Jesus would come through them and convince her of stuff that weren't real.
You know what?
And she won her race again, like she won her primary.
No
Like,
newspaper, no local newspaper to vet her.
I think most of it's cynicism. I think that most of the leadership in this party has understood that the only way for them to win is to join the monster they've lost control of, right? So, you know, that's what they're doing. They're posturing. Some of them may believe it, but most of them are just using it to convince people that it's okay if they suffer needlessly and never succeed at anything because, you know, they're white and they're Christian.
Yep.
But yes, the levels of insanity that they're sparking, or I guess mainstreaming, is extremely alarming. And I do think at some point we need to dedicate a show to the rise of white evangelicism, because it is a minority, a fairly small minority in this country, but it's taking over
It's the conservative
everything
Catholics
on
you
the
gotta worry
right.
about, Mary.
Well, no, it's both. It is
conservative-
both. Those
yeah,
two,
but
and
it's
honestly, I don't see any daylight between
there-
them at this point.
There is, and here's the difference. Those
All right.
6 Catholics, those conservative Opus Dei Catholics that are on the Supreme Court,
Mm.
were trained and were taught and were aimed in that direction. Those were direct and very
Yeah.
specific weapons, armed to go after the Constitution.
Fine. Do you
Difference
think it would have been
between them
different
and-
if they were white
difference
evangelicals?
between
No.
them and the average evangelical, these people are far more dangerous because they have
Brian,
they know how to get there and they have a goal. They scare me.
you
is what
just
I'm
said average. I mean, we're
Oh,
not
yeah,
talking
yeah, I
about
know. I'm
average.
just-
We're
yeah.
like psycho white evangelicals, like Marjorie Taylor Greene. You know, they're
Ugh.
they're
I
not
think-
average.
You know what I'll say is that when we part and parcel the crazy, because I was watching, you know, before I came on, I'm watching MSNBC with my family, and my sister says, you know, why do they keep saying MAGA Republicans? Why don't
Right.
they just say Republicans? Why do we
Exactly.
talk? We're like, we always want to part and parcel because we want to say, oh, they're not all bad. Here's the clue. They're all fucking bad. If you are still supporting the Republican Party, if you're still supporting Donald Trump, if you're still supporting this bevy of, you know, pedophiles and sexual assaulters and like liars and grifters and hucksters, like if you are supporting this is who you are. So we do ourselves a disservice and we waste time and energy saying, oh, but there are this little margin of good people over there. Well, where the hell are they? So don't and I was one of the people that said, I'm not standing up and applauding the people that were testifying in front of
No.
the January 6th committee. Like you could have done the country a greater service had you done so, if you opened up your mouth instead of writing a book to make money off of your thoughts.
Right.
If you had done so a year, 2 years, 3 years ago, right?
I- just like nobody should be praising Liz fucking Cheney either. I mean, she created this mess we're in, and I just want to be clear. I completely agree with you about Republicans. If I ever say maggot, I'm referring to the Republican Party, to a person. They are horrible, and we need to just raise the entire party to the ground. I don't think that you can paint Catholics with the same broad brush. I mean, there are Catholics who are Democratic or whatever, but I don't think that there's any bit of difference between extremist Catholics like those on the illegitimate Supreme Court and extremist white. Actually, I think white evangelicals are all pretty extreme. But anyway, Danielle, totally agree with you. We cannot pretend that there's anything here to salvage. There's nothing here to salvage. I want to shift gears a little bit, Jen,
Raise
because
the chairs and the tables. We'll use them elsewhere, but other than that, you're right.
yeah, right.
Steam clean them though.
Yeah,
We've-
steam clean them and the
we've-
carpets.
We've been hearing that for a long time, and we've talked about it and kind of complained about it, that this took so long because they need to get it right. Okay, fine. I would think, though, then that means, like, I believe that they didn't go into Mar-a-Lago 99.9% sure. They went in 100% sure, right? I would think that would speed up this part of it. Like, why should we wait at all for indictments? I mean, do we really need them to go through the other boxes because before this fucking asshole is hauled away, or that Jared gets a letter saying he's a target? I mean, what? Why does any more time need to pass here?
Such a great question, and I'm going to answer it by describing not a thought process that I just had, but a feeling. I rarely feel things, and now I am, and I feel I feel sick, and this is the first time I have felt sick. Oh, thanks, that helps. Numbing.
Just trying to help you out.
Instead of feeling good, because I just tweeted out about 10 minutes ago, indict him. Instead of feeling good, I feel nauseous, and I reflect back on the fact. This is why I wrote that first piece right after we found out about the search at Mar-a-Lago, because I knew I wanted to capture that euphoria before everything else happened. But the answer is yes, they can right now indict. Yes, because, and I think they need to look at what they got. They've already gone through the search, right? But I think they might have to wait for the special master process, right? There's going to be a hearing on that. The question is, do we need that extra layer of legitimacy? Is that what was going to happen? I mean, I think the judge is going to kick it back to the magistrate.
Yes.
The magistrate is going to say, okay, fine, have your fucking, special person, let them go through and make sure that what's been taken out, that his privilege is put aside. Every duck has got to be in a row. I mean, if I were, at justice right now, if I were one of those lawyers, and if I were someone who weren't Jewish, I'd be down on my knees praying that I got this right, because they've got everything. Yeah. Like I have the chills because it's there, and I just don't feel really great about the situation. I mean, I should be super happy, but I'm now on to the, if they first of all, they better do it. And if they don't, I give up. I'm going to go move up to Canada with Dahlia.
Yeah.
Too cold up there.
Dahlia's in Canada? Wait, you're in Canada? All right. Well, we're all going to Canada then.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dahlia. I think
relax. He's going to get
Danielle reminded me of something that has been a problem for a long time, and hopefully that tide is turning too. The people who are most guilty of trying to rehabilitate Republicans are their Democratic colleagues. If I hear one more fucking Democrat say, "Oh, you know what? So and so's like a really," when Biden praised Mitch McConnell, I wanted to jump off a cliff. Actually, no, I didn't. Forget it. I just censored myself. Okay. So because, I believe that these people are all traitors, whether they were technically involved or not, because they've allowed all of this. They've benefited from all of this. And, up until 2 weeks ago, I would have said that Mitch McConnell was the greatest traitor to this country has ever seen, because look what he's done. Look at the damage he has done in the last 20 years, especially when he's had the position of Senate Majority Leader. So that has to stop. And I've often been wondering, where is that line? Like, when are they going to say, oh, wow, okay, we have to stop being nice to them because Republicans treat their Democratic colleagues like they're Satan. So
Mary, they also Democrats are still spending money bolstering up. We're spending money bolstering up Republicans in their primaries because they're taking the chance that they're going to be able to beat them in the general election, which is
Yeah.
absolutely fucking insane. Like, why wouldn't you spend that money blanketing the airwaves, creating the exact picture of who the villain is, as
Yeah.
opposed to spending tens of millions of dollars to bolster up people like Mastriano? Like, how does that even, how does somebody sit around a table and say to themselves, like, oh, this makes sense, let's go with that strategy?
Yeah, it's the
But I
same
mean-
feeling I had in. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dahlia.
No, I was going to say, we've been having this conversation since we've started having this conversation, right? That I
Are we
think
starting to have this conversation?
one side has norms and values and institutions, right? Joe Biden goes to bed at night and he genuinely believes, all due respect, Mr. President, that we are going to get back to an era where a bipartisan Senate can work in good faith to pass McCain-Feingold and to make everything okay. He believes that, right? That's
Dahlia?
why he ran the Anita Hill hearings the way he did. That's why it's taken him this long to say the word semi-fascist. And I think we just need to like sit with the fact that there is one side that is like Steve Bannon, burn it all down. Doesn't matter if the Senate itself is a smoking ash heap. Doesn't matter what happened on January 6th. The more smoking ash heaps we have, the better, because if you're a grifter and a profiteer and an absolute authoritarian, institutions are in your way. So we have a two-front war on the left, where, like it or not, we need the Justice Department, and so we prop it up. And like Jen says, that means that this has to be done perfectly. If Bill Barr were doing it, well, we've seen the memo. Like, we know what Bill Barr would do. So I just think like it sucks.
You'd elect Donald the Pope.
But this asymmetry is baked in. And I cannot be for the side that says, so let's on our side burn down the Justice Department too, or let's on our side just, you know, completely go after every institution that saves us. And so it's unfair. It's super unfair that we have to both hold up institutions and try to fight off nihilists. That's the party we're at. And I think we just need to live with that.
We need to live with it. And we also need to take the evidence at face value or the lack of evidence. I mean, there is literally no evidence anymore that there is such a thing as bipartisanship, or more importantly, that it's something we even want anymore. Because to say that bipartisanship is something we should aspire to is to admit that you are willing to make common cause with fascists, and we cannot do that. And you're right, we need to uphold the institutions, because you know, if Donald did us any favors, it was to expose how vulnerable they are, you know, how weak they are at the joints. But we need to uphold them so that hopefully when we have enough power, we can totally reimagine them, right? So they actually, one, work. Because I think, Dahlia, you were on with Danielle and Waj the other day, and you said it. The system is working exactly as it's designed. And so have the institutions been. So yes, we need them now because we are in so much fucking trouble. But we also need to change them radically so that just, you know, we can't change the system without changing the institutions that create the system, right? So this is sort of where we are. And I think we just kind of have to suck it up and stop playing with fire and stop pretending that there's a reality in which we can work with Republicans, or again, that's even something we should aspire to. We should probably wrap up soon, but I do want to speak to what Jen said about just feeling sick. And honestly, it's, for me, it's the concern. Well, okay, the terror, that's probably a more honest way of putting it, that this won't be enough. And then what? And then what do we do? You know, hopefully we never have to have that conversation, because it's almost unimaginable. I don't know that I could take it. To be complete, I don't know if any of us could take it. But I'm also, I honestly don't think that this is a day that should make anybody happy, because look how much he was able to get away with. Look how much the people around him have been able to get away with. We've been saying for a long time, no, the fucking system didn't hold. What, one person here and there, and I'm sorry, taking a year and a half to get to this point, that's the system breaking into little bits, and the other thing that is, my heart, because I don't know how many times one's heart can break in a span of 6 years, but think about how many people's lives were in danger. We don't even know yet. We don't even know if the worst happened. What we do know is that Donald wouldn't give a shit if he got a buck off of it. That's enough justification. So what do we do then? I am horrified. I'm depressed. I'm enraged. And again, 2 weeks ago, I don't actually think I would have thought I could be angrier or more depressed than I was after the FBI was at Mar-a-Lago 2 weeks ago. And here we are, because again, we don't know what was in the boxes that were taken away 2 weeks ago. And what do we really think that he would have kept less valuable documents? No fucking way. Danielle, what are you thinking?
I'm just like, because you just said something that I haven't been like scared like in, probably in a few weeks. But like when you just said that it's possible that the worst has not actually happened yet. And we're thinking about the fact that January 6th has happened. We're thinking about people that have hopped fences, shot nail guns at the FBI, have been shot and killed in front of FBI buildings. Like, to think that the worst is not necessarily behind us is something that is terrifying. And if Democrats, again, are not continuing to do awesome work, which they are doing, but continuing to lift up this very fact to the American people, to say that this is not, you have no real choice in November, right? It is either a rise in political violence, and the weaponization of white supremacy, the negation of bodily autonomy, voter suppression. Like, it is either that, right? And the idea that, like, you can just be shot dead anywhere because the Supreme Court says that everybody gets to have an AR-15 everywhere that they go. So, I mean, it is terrifying. And that's the message that should be consistently told over and over again. What I think is beautiful about the moment that we're in, however, is that while Biden's approval numbers are at 4%, he has been able to actually show that he can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah.
That while his Justice Department is activated finally out of their coma over here, and the FBI is activated over there, I'm passing legislation. I'm getting climate change relief. I'm giving student loan debt relief. So Republicans can't use this and say, well, Democrats are just focused on getting Donald Trump. They don't care about you. Right. It's like, no. We're doing this without you. Right. But the idea that the worst has yet to come should be what gets us all, everybody, activated and scared enough, because the fear is a motivator to get to the polls and ensure that Joe Biden and Democrats have what they need in order to save our democracy, which is hanging on by a thread.
That's right. Dahlia.
No, I mean, what Danielle just said made me sort of go one further and say, I think we don't know, and we will never know how bad this was. The reason half of that document is redacted is not recreational redacting. It's because for us to know what has been exposed is insane. And it a little bit goes back to the two-front war, right? I mean, it in order to be able to continue to be a viable actor on the world stage, spies need to be protected, and sources and methods need to be protected, and what we know about foreign leaders needs to be protected. And so we will not know. There's not going to be necessarily a day when we find out how much catastrophic harm has been unleashed in the past, and also in the future, because it's unknowable, because that's the nature of what national secrets and national security means. And so I think it goes to Danielle's larger point, which is this isn't just about money, right? This isn't Fani Willis getting to the bottom of it. This isn't just about January 6th and finding out which Proud Boys did what. This goes to existential threats to national security that we can't know about. And so the only answer then is to do what Danielle just said, which is ask yourself, when you vote, do you want the person who has endangered on the most massive scale of which we can never comprehend national security? Or do you want the person who is fighting every single day to protect it? Because it's that simple. We're not going to know.
We're not going to know. And that also reminds me, this is sort of adjacent to what we were just saying, that it also wounds us deeply on the world stage that Joe Biden has been spending lots of time and capital trying to rehabilitate this country in the eyes of the Western Alliance, and this undermines all of that, because people are reminded once again, holy shit, these fucking Americans, what is wrong with them that they let somebody so demented and so dangerous just run rampant and still run rampant. Jen, any last words?
So I just now revisited good old Lindsey Graham's May 3rd, 2016 tweet. He said,
that's my birthday. He did that. That was my birthday present from Lindsey Graham.
He said, if we nominate Trump, we will get destroyed and we will deserve it. I just QT'd it to him saying, you did, and you do. However, my fear is that that we getting destroyed includes us.
Yeah.
Because when the terrorists fly a plane into the democracy, the building collapses, and that's what they've done. And I just hope that they know what they're doing over there at the Department of Justice. I think they do. They do. And I love what Danielle just said about, holy shit, Biden's doing it all. He's doing it all. And so we can't complain, oh, fine, that's really nice you're doing this, but what about, you're forgetting about Trump? And no one else can say all you care about is getting that guy governed. He did it all. Like I am watching in August when everyone else is supposed to be like on vacation. This man, God bless him. I mean, he is, dare I say, the best president I've seen in my lifetime. I can't believe it. I mean, I'm saying it right now, but it's true.
But Jen, you're forgetting something.
What?
For some bizarre reason, he's not getting younger than he was when we voted for him. And how dare he? How dare he not be getting younger? Seriously, people are never satisfied. I don't often or ever actually quote myself, but every once in a while, Zerlina Maxwell posts this quote from my first book on Twitter at times like this. So I think it's appropriate. If Donald can in any way profit from your death, he'll facilitate it, and then he'll ignore the fact that you died. So that's how I feel right now. I have to say that normally I feel so much better after I talk to you guys. I don't right now, except in solidarity. I so appreciate you. I know I say that a lot, but I don't think it can be said too much. Your wisdom, your brilliance, your compassion, your empathy, and the fact that you care as deeply as you do really keeps me, I don't want to say sane because that's an overstatement, but it keeps me from spinning out. And I so appreciate it, especially on a day as dark as this one. And I do think it is a dark day. So Dahlia Lithwick, Danielle Moody, Jen Taub, Waja Lee, Norm Ornstein, Cliff Schechter, Brian Karam, thank you all so much for joining me for this emergency session of the Mary Trump Show. Nerd Adventures forever. Bye, guys. I hope you all got as much as I did out of that. I think it was extremely important that we come together today to sift through the ongoing horrors, to make sense of them as we can, and to put things in perspective. I will do these whenever necessary, and I unfortunately I think they will be necessary increasingly as this continues. This I don't even want to call it a saga. It's just this terrible time in American history. Yes, this is indeed what it feels like to live through history. So I so appreciate your being here. I will see you again on Tuesday at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. That's at youtube.com/Politicon. And of course, we'll be here next Thursday as well at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 p.m., 4 p.m. Pacific. That's also at youtube.com/Politicon. And that's it. It's been a long day. And thank you. Stay safe. Be kind.